So we're going to go and continue with chapter 8 of Joshua. And it talks about God encourages Joshua, the stratagem whereby Ai was taken, the king thereof hanged. Joshua builds an altar, writes the law on stones, pronounces blessings and cursings. So I guess curses are, it can be real and can be broken. All right, so, and the Lord said unto Joshua, Fear not, neither be thou dismayed. Take all the people of war with thee, and arise, go up to Ai. See, I have given into thy hand the king of Ai, and his people, and his city, and his land. And thou shalt do to Ai and her king as thou didst to Jericho and her king. Only the spoil thereof and the cattle thereof shall you take for a prey unto yourselves. Lay thee in ambush for the city behind it. So Joshua arose, and all the people of war, to go up against Ai. And Joshua chose out 30,000 mighty men of valor, and sent them away by night. Warriors. Okay. And he commanded them, saying, Behold, ye shall lie in wait against the city, even behind the city. Go not very far from the city, but be ye all ready. And I and all the people that are with me will approach unto the city, and it shall come to pass that when they come out against us, as at first, that we will flee before them, for they will come out after us. So we're going to lure them away, okay? Until we have drawn them from the city, for they will say, They flee before us as at the first. Therefore we will flee before them. Then we will rise up from the ambush, seize upon the city, and the Lord your God will deliver it into your hand. And it shall be that when ye have taken the city, that ye shall set the city on fire, according to the commandment of the Lord shall ye do. See, I have commanded you. Joshua therefore sent them forth, and they went to lie in the ambush, and abode between Bethel and Ai, on the west side of Ai. But Joshua lodged that night among the people. Joshua rose up early in the morning, and numbered the people, went up, he and the elders of Israel, before the people of Ai. And all the people, even the people of war that were with him, went up, drew nigh, close, and came before the city, and pitched on the north side of Ai. And there was a valley between them and Ai. And he took about 5,000 men, and set them to lie in ambush between Bethel and Ai, on the west side of the city. And when they had sent the people, even all the host that was on the north of the city, and their liers in wait on the west of the city, Joshua went that night into the midst of the valley. And it came to pass that when the king of Ai saw it, that they hastened and rose up early, and the men of the city went out against Israel to battle, he and all his people at a time appointed before the plain. But he wist not there were liers in ambush against him behind the city. So he didn't know they were there. And Joshua and all Israel made as if they were beaten before them, and fled by the way of the wilderness. So they faked, oh no, we're defeated, and they ran, okay? And all the people that were in Ai were called together to pursue after them. And they pursued after Joshua and were drawn away from the city. And there was not a man left in Ai or Bethel that went not out after Israel. They all took off after them. And they left the city wide open, pursued after Israel. And the Lord said unto Joshua, Stretch out the spear that's in thy hand toward Ai, for I will give it unto thy hand. And Joshua stretched out the spear that he had in his hand toward the city. And the ambush arose quickly out of their place, and they ran as soon as they had stretched out his hand, and they entered into the city and took it, and hastened and set the city on fire. And when the men of Ai looked behind them, they saw, and behold, the smoke of the city ascended up to heaven. And they had no power to flee this way or that way, and the people that fled to the wilderness turned back upon the pursuers. And when Joshua and all Israel saw the ambush and had taken the city, and that the smoke of the city ascended, then they turned again and slew the men of Ai. And the other issued out of the city against them, so that they were in the midst of Israel, some on this side, some on that side, and they smote them, so that they let none of them remain or escape. And the king of Ai they took alive and brought him to Joshua. And it came to pass that when Israel had made an end of slaying all the inhabitants of Ai in the field and in the wilderness therein, they chastened them, and when they were all fallen on the edge of the sword until they were all consumed, that all of Israelites turned unto Ai and smote it with the edge of the sword. And so it was that all that fell that day, both of men and women, were 12,000, even all the men of Ai. For Joshua drew not his hand back, wherewithin he stretched out the spear, until he had utterly destroyed all the inhabitants of Ai. Only the cattle and the spoil of the city of Israel took for a prey unto themselves, according to the word of the Lord, which he commanded Joshua. And Joshua burnt Ai, and made it a heap forever, and even a desolation until this day. And the king of Ai he hanged on a tree until eventide, and as soon as sun was down, Joshua commanded that they should take his carcass down from the tree, cast it at the entering of the gate of the city, and raise thereon a heap of stones that remains unto this day. Then Joshua built an altar unto the Lord God of Israel in Mount Ebal, as Moses the servants of the Lord commanded the children of Israel, as it is written in the book of the law of Moses, on the altar of whole stones, over which no man has lifted up any iron. They offered thereon burnt offerings unto the Lord, and sacrificed peace offerings. And he wrote there upon the stones a copy of the law of Moses, which he wrote in the presence of the children of Israel. And all Israel and their elders and officers and their judges stood on the side of the ark, and on that side before the priest of Levites, which bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord, as well as the stranger that was born among them, half of them over against the mount of Gerizim, half of them over against the mount of Ebal, as Moses the servants of the Lord had commanded before, that they should bless the people of Israel. Afterward he read all the words of the law, the blessings, the cursings, according to all that is written in the book of the law. There was not a word of all that Moses commanded which Joshua read not before all the congregation of Israel, with the women and the little ones, the strangers that were conversant among them. Chapter 9. The kings combined against Israel, the Gibonites obtaining a league by craft, are condemned to perpetual bondage. And it came to pass, when all the kings which were on the side of Jordan, in the hills and in the valleys, and all the coast of the great sea, over against Lebanon, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Canaanite, Perizzite, the Hivite, the Jebusite, heard thereof, that they had gathered themselves together to fight with Joshua and with Israel with one accord. And when the inhabitants of Gibeon heard that Joshua had done unto Jericho and to Ai, they did the work willingly. They went and they made as if they had been ambassadors, and took old sacks upon their asses, and wine bottles old and rent and bound up, and old shoes and clouded upon their feet, old garments upon them, and all of the bread of their provisions was dry and moldy. And they went to Joshua unto the camp of Gilgal, and said unto him and to the men of Israel, We be come from a far country, and now therefore make ye a league with us. And the men of Israel said unto the Hivites, Peradventure ye dwell among us, and how shall we make a league with you? And they said unto Joshua, We are thy servants. And Joshua said unto them, Who are ye? And from whence come ye? And they said unto him, From a very far country. Thy servants are come because of the name of the Lord thy God. For we have heard the fame of him, and all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the two kings of the Amorites that were beyond Jordan, to Sihon, king of Heshbon, and to the Og, king of Bashan, which was at Ashtaroth. Wherefore our elders and all the inhabitants of the country spake to us, saying, Take victuals with you for the journey, and go to meet them, and say unto them that we are your servants. Therefore now make ye a league with us. This is our bread we took hot from our provisions out of our houses on the day that we came forth to go unto you, but now behold, it's dry, and it is moldy. And these bottles of wine which we filled were now, and behold, they be rent, and our garments and our shoes have become old by reason of a very long journey. And the men took their victuals, and asked not counsel by the mouth of the Lord. And Joshua made peace with them, and made a league with them, to let them live, and the princes of the congregation swore unto them. And it came to pass that at the end of 3 days, after they had made a league with them, that they heard that they were their neighbors, and that they dwelt among them. And the children of Israel journeyed and came into their cities on the 3rd day. Now their cities were Gibeon, Sephirah, Beeroth, and Kirjath Jearim. And the children of Israel smote them not, because the princes of the congregation had sworn unto them by the Lord God of Israel. And all the congregation murmured against the princes. But all the princes said unto all the congregation, We have sworn unto them by the Lord God of Israel. Now therefore we may not touch them. This we will do to them. We will even let them live, lest wrath be upon us because of the oath that we swore unto them. And the princes said unto them, Let them live, but let them be hewers of wood and drawers of water unto all the congregation. And the princes had promised them. And Joshua called for them, and he spake unto them, saying, Wherefore have ye beguiled us by saying, We are very far from you, when you dwelt among us? Now therefore ye are cursed, and there shall none of you be freed from being bondsmen and hewers of wood and drawers of water for the house of my God. And they answered Joshua and said, Because it was certainly told by thy servants how the Lord thy God commanded his servant Moses to give you all the land and destroy all the inhabitants of the land before you, before we were sore afraid of our lives because of you, and have done this thing. But now, behold, we are in thine hand, and it seemeth good and right unto thee to do so unto us. So he did unto them, and delivered them out of the hand of the children of Israel, and